Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Claudia Monticelli, the host of this podcast, Let's Talk Soul. Over the years, after having interviewed so many people on so many different topics, I realized that what interested my audience wasn't really the individual topics per se, but was how it impacted them, how it touched their soul. So I'll invite you all to lay back, put your feet up, and if you like what you hear, leave a review, 5-star review. I'd appreciate that. So just enjoy your listening. Today I have with me a guest who is speaking to us from Indiana in the United States, Jason Skeesick. Jason, say hello to our audience.
Hello, audience. Hello, Claudia.
Beautiful voice you have, Jason. It's lovely to hear that voice. And as always, I always try to get a feel for our guests by asking them so many questions. And I, was pleasantly surprised by learning about Jason, who has done literally everything under the sun. I mean, I'm in that range too, but not like this. For example, he's spent life professionally pursuing those things that he loves personally, and he likes to, spread with the world. He's a businessman. He's an entrepreneur, a coach, and a podcaster, and he's very high energy, and he brings high energy experiences and curiosity into everything he does. Now, a couple of things that I want to say about him before we get into the meat and bones of our interview. He's the host of a podcast called the Spear and Clover, and we'll talk about that a little bit. He's coached and consulted with hundreds of entrepreneurs for the past 4 years. He's never gotten off a coaching call with less energy than when he started. So here we have somebody in front of us. The typical. All right, he's a U.S. Army veteran. So if you can have a typical image of an army man, a serviceman who is high energy, that is him. He has a degree in finance and worked as a commercial banker to large companies. That means he speaks finance, and he can speak finances and break down the fundamentals of business. So we have this sort of, but not last but not least, he's also owned a large CrossFit gym in Chicago for the past 12 years. And here he developed a love for building tribal communities. And, this is what caught my eye when I talked to him, this notion of tribes. Let's get started, Jason. Now, first tell us about your podcast, The Spear and Clover.
Absolutely. First of all, thank you so much for having me on, Claudia. I really appreciate your
pleasure.
time. This is it's clearly a labor of love for you as it is for me. Yeah. So the Spear and Clover podcast is me highlighting entrepreneurs, typically passionate entrepreneurs who see the world as it could be and just can't help but to take
Why
action.
the Spear and Clover? Why that name?
What a great question. So if you're watching the video, I have a tattoo on my forearm of what I call the Spear and Clover symbol. And what that is it's a Spartan spear with a infinite loop of rope in the center. And there's a simple story to that. I go on ruck marches once a week with my 2 Australian Shepherd dogs. And I basically just go without talking to anybody. And I think about myself.
Say that again, Jason. You go on what kind of marches?
A ruck march. So a ruck march is like hiking.
In the military, ruck. I didn't get that. Yeah. Right. Okay.
Yeah. So
with a backpack?
Yeah. So this one particular day, we're doing 11 miles, and I have a 40-pound pack on my back, and I have a 40-pound log on my shoulder, and I won't put it down for that 11 miles. And I'm head down, feet moving. I'm military mindset. I'm pursuing my goal very, very viciously. But my dogs are having the time of their life. They're running out into the woods, and then they come back and check on me. They're running out into the woods, and then they come back and check on me. And Claudia, it occurred to me in that instant that at my best, I'm neither military mindset or spirit of the puppy. I'm a combination of both. And so the entrepreneurs that I see myself working best with and enjoy spending time with, and not entrepreneurs, but people, are people who understand the value of discipline and hard work, but still make time for play and curiosity and meeting new people and trying new things. And that's very much been just looking backwards in time. That's very much been throughout my entire life.
Yeah. So this sounds, it's sort of in a nutshell, the experience of how you got to where you are, and your philosophy behind how you do your work.
Yeah.
And so, of course, this opens a number of different notions, core values. And obviously, when you work with businesses and people, what do you mean by core values? I mean, everyone knows what those words mean, but for you.
Yeah, it's a good question, because I think for most people, especially when we talk about the context of business, core values and mission statement are the two things that you do the day you file your LLC, and you slide them in a drawer and you never look at them again. They're things that we borrow from McDonald's and Apple and Ford, and we think that somehow that's going to make us better entrepreneurs. My belief is the exact opposite. I believe that your core values are organic to you. They're the embers that burn inside your chest and make you who you are.
The embers that burn in your chest. I love that.
I'm glad. And so what I do, Claudia, is not help you to come up with core values, but I try to help the impossible task of defining what they already are. But once you have them, now you have a puzzle piece that you can permanently hold up to the world, both past, present, and future, that helps you to make better decisions as you go through life, whether you're an entrepreneur or just a regular person.
This brings me to, okay, core values. We've got that, and that's fine. You also talk about attention and about listening, adding to leading, to being a good leader. When you say that you talk to others about learning to shepherd your attention, I've talked to a lot of people, like I'm sure you do. And since I have been interviewing so many people, I've noticed that an extraordinary majority of people are afflicted with ADHD. Am I get that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And I thought this is an epidemic. Why is that? And these are people that are very successful in their businesses. And it must, in my mind, it must be devastating. Is this what you mean by learning to shepherd your attention and use it to your benefit?
That's a great question. So what I've found very early on, I was in the epidemic of ADHD diagnoses, whether or not it's real or not, I don't know.
When was that? What year are we talking
about? The 80s. I was, I was removed from public school when I was in first grade, and I was put into a K through 12 behavior disorder school with 40 kids. And so there were gang members in there that were in their high school years, and there were suicide people in there, and people that were really struggling with some pretty difficult things. And I had friendships with them. I was just a kid that was attracted to doing anything but what was in a textbook. And I think ultimately, ADHD is maybe better described as entrepreneur's disease, because we're the types of folks where if you put us in front of something we are interested in, we will stop at nothing to go to these great heights. And so what I've found throughout my life, Claudia, it took me till I was about 35 to figure it out. But what I found is, even looking back, I've always sought ways to take those things that I was already attracted to with my attention and really put myself in a position where that was the virtuous thing that got me forward in life. So rather than trying to drain my energy, spending my days doing something that someone else wanted for their reasons, I find that I have boundless energy to pursue those things that I have structures around that I'm already innately super interested in. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah. As a matter of fact, when you talk about weekly personal habits, I'm thinking maybe this has to do with what we're talking about now.
Yeah, definitely.
Personal habits that help you be a better person in all aspects of your life, and your personal life and your business life. Are there habits that you intentionally carry out that will help you with your attention?
Absolutely. And so for starters,
can I ask you for an example?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right,
so my whole week is actually mapped out, and it's not in the alpha or the what do you call that, type A personality type, where I map out my whole trip or anything like that.
Yeah.
What I do is I start with those things that are the most important. I start with time with my family. I start with my time for fitness, which currently is jujitsu and kickboxing 4 days a week. And I start with my playtime with my wife and with my daughter, Lucy. And then I backfill my work to fit into that schedule. So I set aside about 20 hours a week, including podcasting, for all of my work. And what I find is the actual work that I do tactically day to day is stuff that gives me energy. And so there's just never a time that I show up to a call with somebody like you, or to help somebody with a problem with their business, where I don't feed off of that and come off of the call with more energy, as you mentioned, than when I got on.
All right. Well, now I'm going to get to the nitty gritty here.
Yeah.
When I hear someone talk about their experience as you are, and you do, and you have it down to practically a science, as they say, you do what you want to do and you like to do. You've learned about yourself since you were a child, and you've sort of tapered your life around your positive and negative traits, like all of us do who survive that way, right?
Sure.
It brings me to ask you, well, we've got a book here. We've got a couple of books. When are they coming out?
It's a good question. I recently, I never thought that I would want to write a book. I don't have to write in my life.
Of course not.
And so what I found is, for starters, the podcast. This is a terrific way to put on record sort of who you are as a person and the way you look at the world. But separately, I just recently launched a program, which I won't shamelessly plug, Dynasty Defined.
Go ahead, Dale. Do it. Be shameless. Go ahead.
So it's called Dynasty Defined.
Dynasty Defined.
Yes.
Why did you choose that?
Well, so the thing that I found interesting was what I started when I took a retirement for about a year after I sold my second business in 2 years. And before I started back up, I said, what would I not just want to sell? Because I don't care about selling. I don't care about money. What would I stand at the rooftop or stand on top of a mountain and fight for? And so those things are things like we've talked about: core values, their mission, their understanding the foundations of your business. But Claudia, that's not sexy. People want to sell money. People want to sell marketing strategies, and they want to sell, the sexy stuff. And so what I said was, well, there is this one place where strategy and foundations are sexy, and that's in sports. So if you think about dynasty organizations, Claudia, like the Patriots or the Steelers or the Bulls.
I mean, when I saw Dynasty,
come on.
I thought, oh, come on now, wait, who are those actors in Dynasty?
I know what
Does he mean that?
You're talking about JJ? Was it the guy's name?
Did he live in Texas? What is this?
Who shot?
Right.
Yeah,
I thought maybe that, you were talking about tribe. There is this idea of tribe. The dynasty is sort of a top-down concept, right? And the tribe is down up from the bottom up. So it's a little bit of conflicting there.
To your point, though, the dynasty in the show Dynasty is no different than the 70s Steelers. It's an organization that succeeds year in and year out, not because of not because of individuals and not because of individual tactics, but because of the foundations of who they are. In this case, their bloodline. The
castle, the dynasty has the castles. Okay, we get it. I just didn't put the tribe on the same level as Dynasty. But I have to say, to your credit, when I saw that word dynasty, I thought, because it's very exclusive. I mean, it is an exclusive concept. And I thought it was very, very smart. So before we started talking, I mentioned that I saw the date of November 14th on your website, which is, and I will shamelessly plug that right here, spearandclover.com, spearandclover.com. And why did you choose the 14th, which is 3-4 days ago from the time we're recording?
Pragmatically, it's the last date that I probably could do where we're not heavily into the holiday season, where we can get through, this is our first cohort. I'm not just pushing out a digital product. I'm actually working with a cohort, with workshops, and guiding a small group of entrepreneurs through a course. So
the idea is they would sign up for a coaching program. How is that sold? How is that advertised?
So it's a three-pronged approach. We have very essentialist video content that gives them the ideas, kind of like what a textbook would do. They have some brief worksheets that they go through, and then we come together once a week for a workshop where we actually help each other to solve these problems more permanently. And we do things like coming up with core values by setting and working towards long-term goals, and things like that.
So it's on a one-to-one and a group. Is that, as I understood that correctly?
That's correct. Yeah, we're limited to 8 entrepreneurs in any given cohort. And so that's enough where we can all help each other.
Okay, so when you talk about a cohort in my language and research, that is an age group. Is that what this cohort means?
No,
here?
more like in the school sense of you go through, like I went through a cohort for a finance program. So this is cohort number 1. I actually almost called it tribe number 1. But the reason I didn't is I want everybody to feel like they're part of one large tribe in our organization, not just many small ones.
So we've got a lot of things going on here. Do you still own that gym in Chicago? Or is that
I do own I own a small part of it, but I live in a different state. So I sold the majority of it to my brother from another mother, Andrew Westcott, who's doing a terrific job leading it. But I will probably always own a small part, mostly because I love that community. The most thing that I would say I'm proud of there, Claudia, is there's about 10 children that are walking around because their parents met in our community. So to me, that's the highest praise that we could possibly have.
I worked in a gym for 12 years when I was studying all through that. And it was just, it was wild. Yeah. It was wonderful and wild. And the community inside the gyms are so wonderful. But at a time when they separated the men's day from women's day, you may remember, I'm not sure, you remember Jack LaLanne?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, well, it was the Jack LaLanne, then it was called the Jack LaLanne Club. And it was such a fun time. And well, anyway, let me get off that. So, Mr. Skeesick, I do hope I'm going to get you back, and not only to talk about other things, because I know you have them up your sleeve, but also to shamelessly promote a book that's in the making, perhaps. What do you say?
I would love that very much.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Jason, for coming and taking the time to talk to us. It was a pleasure to have you.
Thank you, Claudia. I appreciate you.
Bye-bye.